Welcome. I'm Joshua Lisec, the Ghostwriter. I'm here today with Eric Anderton, a construction industry executive and leadership coach and author of Construction Genius and host of the podcast by the same name.
That's
Eric,
right.
how you doing?
I'm doing awesome, Josh. It's great to see you.
Flash that book over there. Let us see that beaut there.
A little rascal right here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that is a subtitle for the ages. Now,
Yes,
I believe the subtitle, will you read it to us?
Yeah, so it's effective, hands-on, practical, simple, no BS leadership strategy, sales, and marketing advice for construction companies.
It's not often that we see a subtitle that's that long. I believe, if I recall correctly, the reason the subtitle is that long is because it's based on a testimonial. Someone was describing your services.
Yeah, one of my most valuable clients or valued clients his name is Bill Schultz, and he runs Schultz Heavy Civil Construction out of New York, up in the Albany area. And he sent some of his executives through my online coaching program. And the thing that he said about it is that it's effective, hands-on, practical, simple, no BS. So I just took that right away and I thought, man, that'd be a killer subtitle for my book.
And that is a wonderful tip for any aspiring authors, is that the best title or subtitle of your book is going to come from stellar testimonials like that, because the best copy is that which comes from the mouths or the words of your own clients. And speaking 100%. Of clients,
yeah,
tell me about the sort of work that you do with these construction industry executives. Like, why do they decide they want to work with you in the first place?
One of the reasons is, when you promote someone, let's say you've got someone who's a very good project manager, they know how to run work, they know how to interact with the field, and they're good at building one project at a time. And so you say, okay, I want to promote that person up into a project executive or area manager role. They have to make a shift from building projects to now building teams of people. And those are completely different positions. And so I come in to help them make that shift. And I do it in two ways. One is on a one-on-one coaching basis, where we work through where you are now in your leadership, where you'd like to be, and what are the roadblocks between where you are now and where you'd like to be. We identify those roadblocks, and then we go to work on putting together a plan for overcoming those roadblocks. And as a coach, I help the executives I work with to articulate their plan, and then I hold them accountable for executing that plan so they can become better leaders.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, one of the angles of the book is that this is not a technical manual. This is a book to overcome people problems, because as you've identified, individuals who are successful in the construction industry may not necessarily perceive that the business problems, the operations problem that they're having are in fact people problems. So following construction textbooks and consulting people within the industry may not be the right approach. That's why they come to someone like you, is for the people problems, right?
And that's the interesting thing, because I'm not I've never worked in a construction company, but I've worked with construction companies now for almost 2 decades. And so what I understand is that they have the technical skills, and most companies have those technical skills, all things being equal. But what sets apart the elite construction companies from the also-rans is their ability to develop their people and overcome those people issues that they face on a daily basis.
Interesting, interesting. So do you often find yourself as one of a few different executive and leadership coaches that executives, presidents, et cetera, are considering, and they say, well, you know, there's Eric over here, but this person was the vice president of construction. Like, have you ever found yourself being kind of price shopped, or at least experience shopped in that way?
I would say yes and no. By the time people talk to me, because of the way my marketing is very intentional, the way I present myself is very intentional. So people tend to filter themselves out by the time they're talking to me. But that could very well be a decision that some people make. And I think it's a good decision, because I'm not a fit for everyone. So if you're looking for a technical expert in construction to help you from a consulting basis, that's not me. I am not a technical expert. It's the people side of the equation where I have my expertise. And in my experience, working with construction companies, at the end of the day, most of the problems that they have are rooted in people issues.
Now, you talk about intentional marketing to help prospects, sales qualified leads, effectively filter themselves into wanting to talk to you. And it sounds like that's where the book comes in, does it not? With intentional marketing.
Absolutely. And so the way the book comes in, it's part of what I would consider my marketing funnel. So like you said, I have a podcast, and the podcast is free. I don't put any outside advertising on my podcast because I don't want to clutter it up. What I do is I focus on providing value to construction leaders through my interviews and solo shows, specifically in terms of how to build a successful construction company. So that's the top part of how I present myself to the world. And then from there comes the book. And the book is a distillation of much of the wisdom that I share on the podcast and the leadership insights. And that's just another opportunity for someone in a simple, straightforward format to dive into some of the richness of the information that I've distilled into that book in a way that they're able to digest it and then use it very practically.
Interesting. So if we go from the free of consuming your free content online, and I noticed this with a lot of consultants and coaches, they may have some free content that's out there, and then the next step up, I guess the next rung on the ladder, is way, way high up there, and that's $25,000, or $5,000 one time, or it's in the five figures, even six figures after the free content, and there's not necessarily that low cost item that people can purchase, which enables them to prove to themselves that you know what you're talking about, so they feel comfortable paying you top dollar. Is that the function of your book?
Absolutely. So, for $20, you can go out and purchase yourself a copy of the book. And I promise you that if you actually use and apply the information that I have in the book, you'll get a 10x, 20x, 30x return from that. But for only $20, you can get some killer information that will have an immediate impact.
Excellent. So what the book does is the book, frankly, and in my humble opinion, over delivers value, showing how to do, what to do, how to diagnose and solve the problem itself. Some coaches and consultants are concerned about giving everything away, so to speak. How did you deal with that concern, or maybe alleviate that?
Well, I think the first thing is that my philosophy on my business is I play long-term games with long-term people. And so I've made a 20-year commitment to the construction industry. I'm not going anywhere as far as that's concerned. And with that in mind, I have no problem giving away tons of information up front, because I understand that this is a way for people to get to know me, to trust me, and then to like me, because that's people buy from people that they know, trust, and like. So all of my marketing, whether it's the free podcast, whether it's the book for $20, all of it is centered around people having an opportunity to get to know me, trust me, and like me. And so I present myself in the way that I would in a relationship with a client, because I understand that who I am attracts some people, but then it also repels other people. Because some people, they see the stuff that I do and they say, you know what, I don't think Eric's a fit for me. And I like that, because I only want people contacting me who think, I see what Eric's saying. I understand his philosophy and his approach based on the stuff I've consumed. Now let me have a further conversation with him to see if there's a fit for more intense work, whether it be one-on-one executive coaching, or perhaps some strategic planning, or coming in and doing a leadership development class with the folks in my organization.
How can you tell that the book is working for its purpose, for its placement in the funnel?
Well, first, I'm getting some killer reviews on Amazon, so that's really gratifying. So I'm getting 5-star reviews, and I'm also getting tremendous feedback. And the feedback I find it interesting, because it always surprises me, and I don't know why this is. It surprises me because people say, "Hey, Eric, this is a great book," and whenever you put something out into the world, you're like, you're always looking at the flaws in it, and nothing's ever perfect that we produce. But at the same time, there's so much value in what I've put out there. People are giving me that feedback that they're getting tremendous benefit from reading it, and so that's really gratifying. That feedback's just coming to me based on putting the book out there.
Excellent. So the book works in that regard.
Absolutely. It works.
How is its function inside of the funnel of helping people go from curious to serious about working with you?
Yeah, that's really great. So I am not in the business of being a best-selling author. This is not like I don't have to sell any of my copies, even one copy, to sustain my business in any way. Okay. So I see it very much as just another opportunity for someone to get to know me. Now, typically what's interesting is when someone spends a little bit of money with you, it then increases the likelihood that they will spend more money with you if they've gotten value for the money they've invested. And so I think it really sits nicely in my marketing funnel as the entry-level step of investing money should someone choose to purchase the book. And that can then begin them on the process of engaging with me in a deeper way.
How could you tell that you not just maybe wanted but needed the book with all the different types of marketing you could be doing? You decided to do a book, and it's not necessarily something that everyone realizes. The coaches or consultants realize. It would be nice to have a book, but I'll do something else instead. So how did you come to that decision that a book made sense for you?
My consulting and coaching services are not cheap. I would consider them to be an investment for people. It's an investment well worth making. And I expect my clients to get a 5 to 10 times return on any investment they make with me. That being said, it's always useful to have something a little less expensive so that people can get to know me for, less money, so to speak, and get tremendous value, whether they choose to work with me or not. And so the perspective there is, I know that the value I bring to the table with all of my clients is incredible, but people need some incremental steps to get to that investment point. And that's where the book comes in for, like $20, or if you get the hardcover, it's $30. If you buy the Kindle, it's $9 or something like that.
Okay. So what the book does that the podcast doesn't do is it first of all, it distills it all into one place.
Yes.
That's the first thing. And the second thing is that it is worthwhile to pay for so that they can, frankly, get the average lifetime client value, get those numbers started there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also tremendously, and again, I don't know why this is, but I think we all do this. We read something and we immediately give credibility to the fact that it's printed on paper or digitally communicated. A book gives you tremendous authority. And I think there's something magical to having, something bound with your name on the side of it and things like that. And, it being on Amazon and it being a real life thing, it brings tremendous authority and tremendous credibility to you that goes far beyond, the content in the book. And so it's really interesting, that dynamic.
So then someone might say, okay, maybe as a consultant or as a coach, maybe I should do a book, and just having something. I hear this a lot, like, oh, a book is like a business card. You just got to get something out there. Well, like you, I am known as being not inexpensive, being not right, quote unquote reasonably priced. So right, if having a book that's got a nice cover, nice title, good presentation, like if that's good enough, then why did you want to come to me in the first place?
That's a great question. And it's very simple. I know what my hourly rate is. I know what my time is worth on an hourly basis. I know how long it would take me to actually put together a book like this. Now, all of this is my information, but to distill all that information and to put it into a readable format, I know how much time it would take. I know how much your services as a ghostwriter cost. When I compare how much time it would take me and what that would cost me versus how much money I would give you to help me with that process, it's a complete no-brainer. And so I just looked at how much time it would take me, how much that would cost me, how much time and energy it would take me to work with you, and it was an easy decision to make.
I appreciate you saying that. Now, is it okay with you if we give viewers here a little bit of insight into when you say you have some information already, how vast that information was?
I think you probably know that more than I do, because it was I gave you just a ton of, I like puked on you a whole bunch of stuff, because I do have, the thing is, I probably got like 10 books in there if I really took the time to distill it all down. But I don't know do you remember?
687 pages.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So at the outset, you said, do you think you can find a book in here? And not just a book, like it has to be the right book. Right. And that was the hard part. So going from 687 pages to a manageable industry standard general trade nonfiction book that's consumable by most people in a reasonable period of time, that was difficult, but that was fun. And the interesting thing is, we began that experience, that adventure of going to authorship, with questions about what end result did you want? And because I understand what a book's function in the funnel is. You can't just have, oh, this interview I had with this one person, we'll have that be chapter 1. We'll repurpose this other interview. We'll call that chapter 2. What we did is we talked about what outcome do readers need to have who apply this. And one of the outcomes was, well, they need to learn that my stuff works so that they'll want to work with me in some other capacity. And that's the point. It's like a proof of concept, proving it to themselves that for $20, they can solve an expensive people problem in their construction company and say, okay, now we got this other bigger thing. We need to talk to Eric directly about this particular issue.
Absolutely.
And so that, starting with the end in mind, frankly, resulted in, okay, because that's the promise, here's what it's going to take to fulfill that promise. And out of the 400,000 or 440,000 words, I think, we ended up carving it in somewhere between 50 and 60,000 words out of that, and where that would fulfill the promise. So I liken it to, we have the block of marble and we remove everything that's not the statue at the end.
Yep. No, absolutely. And that process in itself, as you're describing it, I mean, I can say that would have taken me X amount of time, but really it never would have gotten done. I just know myself. I know how busy I am handling my clients, running my business. That wouldn't have happened. And that's exactly why I engaged your services to help me to get that done.
Now, you're comfortable with it being publicly known and referring to me like as the ghostwriter. There are some people who are kind of freaked out by that terminology. Well, that means that they didn't actually write it themselves, and there's somebody made up a bunch of stuff. But what was the ghostwriting experience like for you? How does it feel authentic for you to have your name on the cover? I'd like you to explore that.
Yeah. So the first thing was your process of actually getting stuff from me. So everything that's in this book is from me. It's everything that I've said to my clients, I've taught my clients, I know works to help them to develop their leadership team in their construction company. And so it's the voice is my voice. What you do as the ghostwriter is, like you said, you carve out the statue from the block of marble, and you do it in such a way that it's easily consumable in a logical, straightforward fashion. And so to me, what happens is that it's really helped me to take all of the stuff that I have in my mind, or the stuff that I've actually already shared in various locations with my clients, and rationalize it down to that consumable piece of content that is one book.
Well said. Well said. So now that you are in a few months into being a published author, what have been some let's say surprises along the way that you've experienced as being author of Construction Genius that maybe you didn't expect would occur?
Well, I think the first surprise is that people actually buy the book, which I think is killer. I mean, and again, we battle with ourselves in a certain way, because I know that I kick ass and I do a great job for my clients and I bring tremendous value. But then there's, the other voice in you that is saying, I can't believe that anyone would actually buy a book that I've published. But you know what? They've bought the book. They've gotten tremendous value from it. What's really interesting to me, and this is something I hadn't thought of, is what they're doing with it. So multiple people have talked to me about how they've purchased the book for them and their leadership team, and they've gone to, let's say, a retreat, and they've gone through the book in the retreat and discussed it. Or there's another company, and again, this is just like, what's tremendous is that this is a company that I'd love to do business with. They're right in my target market. I've never talked to them in my life. The guy contacts me on LinkedIn and he says, Eric, I've purchased your book. We're going through a book club in my company, and your book is on the book club. And what we'd like you to do is to come in on the last month of our book club and just do a short questions and answers based on the book. And, it's like, that's a total no-brainer, but I never would have thought that would have happened as a result of publishing the book. I wouldn't have even thought of that being a possibility. And so what's happened as a result of publishing the book is not only are people buying it, which is cool, but they're actually coming up, they're coming up with creative ways of using the information in their companies that has surprised me and given me insight into how I can further promote the book in the future.
Excellent. And what are some of the ways that you want to promote this book in the future?
Well, I think specifically as I'm continuing to promote the book, is to really think about communicating how you can use it in a practical way. So again, people are always looking for a return on investment. So let's say you have 10 people on your leadership team, you purchase 10 copies of Construction Genius at $20 a piece. So you've invested a couple of $100. You spend 6 months reading the book. And so that's 12 chapters, 2 chapters a month. And you have a 30-minute discussion with your team. You sit down and have a discussion about the application of the information that you've read. And then you hold each other accountable for those applications. You come back the next month and incrementally build on what you're learning as a result of what you've read in the book. That's a practical strategy that I'm emphasizing again and again when I'm promoting the book.
Interesting. So there's multiple ways to monetize the book. You could like sell it directly. There's this sort of book club offer, and then there's the like people can like pay you to come in and like give a workshop based on the book, right?
Sure, absolutely. And then another thing I'm doing as well, and one of the things you cannot discount this at all. So as a published author, you have the ability to go on and get your own author copies. And so, you go on Amazon and this guy's $20, but for me, it's only $3, right? So what I do is I've purchased hundreds of copies for myself, and I've given those away to my clients and my potential clients. And what I love to do, and this is just, dude, and again, when people ask you to do this stuff, it kind of blows you away, but they ask you to hand sign the book. So I had a guy purchase 7 copies of the book, and I went into his office and I hand signed the book for each of his leaders. And I do that for the people that I give away the copies to. I hand sign them. And, that's obviously, we all know that's what authors do, but the power of doing that, the power of personally delivering a hand-signed copy of the book has such tremendous impact on people. They really appreciate that. It's something special and unique that every published author should be doing.
Now, every business owner, every marketer, every sales professional knows that the #1 marketing strategy is word of mouth marketing. So right. Often that's a passive approach that involves hoping that they'll mention you, hoping that they'll do something, hoping that they'll say something. And enough of those hopes materialize to produce some pretty solid word of mouth and referrals and whatnot. But what you're doing with the book is you are empowering your clientele, your happy clients, happy customers. You're empowering them to become serious word of mouth marketers who have a tangible evidence that your stuff works. That it seems like is superior to you hoping that they'll just remember to mention you.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious about your podcast in relationship to the book. Some people think, oh, I should have a podcast first, or I should do a book first. In your mind, is having a podcast a necessary prerequisite to a book? Does it help? Is it non-essential? Should other consultants and coaches just do a book first? What are your thoughts on that sort of content creation experience?
Well, I'll give some thoughts there. First thing, that a podcast is way easier to put together than a book. You just need a microphone and a camera, and either you publish it yourself or get someone to help you. I would recommend you get someone to help you. I don't think it's necessary for you to have a podcast to do a book, but like I've experienced, much of the content in my book has come from my podcast. There's a bonus chapter in the book that people have got to read. And it has 2 powerful chapters in there that I got from podcast interviews. One is from a gentleman who is starting up his construction company, and another is from a gentleman who insisted that his company was not going to go bankrupt, even when his partners were abandoning him and people were counseling him to take his company through bankruptcy. And that chapter in and of itself, that bonus chapter, which is not actually in the physical book, is tremendously powerful. And that came from my podcast. So my answer is, it's not essential to have a podcast to do a book. That being said, podcast and book work really well together in terms of generating content from the podcast that then can be filtered into a book.
Although there are only 687 pages, possibly.
Yeah, well, that's why you need a good ghostwriter who's able to distill that down in such a way that you're able to say yay or nay in terms of whether or not we should use this content.
Oh, I appreciate that, Eric. It's been quite a fun adventure working with you, collaborating with you on this, and one of the you can confirm or deny this, but it seemed like this was a low time investment for the return on time for you that you had to put into this.
Yeah. And so that was what I was looking for. Because again, my time is incredibly valuable, and I want to use it wisely at all times. And so when I looked at the process that you presented and the credibility that you have in terms of your experience doing ghostwriting, it really was, like I said earlier, a no-brainer for me. And as we went through the process, one thing that I appreciate is, and this is important for everyone to know, is that it's not necessarily a seamless process. There's bumps in the road. There's things that you drafted out chapters and sent it back to me, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. And one thing that I've always appreciated about you is that, and this is particularly true with regards to even after I had paid you all the money for your services, you have maintained availability to me for tweaks that we've needed to make or questions that I've had. And it wasn't like you just helped me with it and then you just kind of ghosted me, right? You're not the ghostwriter who ghosts people. You're the ghostwriter who sticks around and helps people out even
I haunt you. I'm the ghostwriter who haunts.
You haunt. You don't ghost, you haunt. That's good. I like that.
Well, this has been fun, Eric. Thank you so much for your time here. Once again, Eric is the host of Construction Genius and the author of the book by the same name, Construction Genius. If you simply Google his name, Google the book title, go into Amazon, you'll find myriad versions of the book that you can get a hold of. You were just an absolute blast and a pleasure and a joy to work with, Eric. Thank you so much for coming on with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Joshua.
Sure thing. All right, I'll stop it right there.
Awesome.
And I mean that to